No worries. Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here today, and welcome to our inaugural CyberGuru webinar on how to become more productive with Microsoft Copilot. This webinar has been especially designed for our clients with ongoing proactive management in mind to help make you more productive and provide some practical examples of where you can use it in your daily activities. We're also going to be discussing the security requirements for this. For those who don't know me, and I think you all do, my name is Jessie Jeffery, and I'm the Chief Guru of CyberGuru, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. Just some housekeeping before we get started. Firstly, we are recording this session, probably for our quality and also reference purposes down the track. We'll also encourage you to participate throughout the session, but if you can have your microphone on mute during the session, this will help to minimise background noise. Thirdly, if you have any questions, please do type them in the chat or in the Q&A box to ask a question, and we'll be able to answer them during the Q&A in the last 15 minutes of this session. And if you experience any technical difficulties, please do let us know in the chat and we'll do our best to assist. Now, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Jessie Jeffery. For those who haven't met her, she's my wife and business partner of many years. And she is leading the initiative to improve our clients' productivity by using Microsoft Copilot for Copilot for Microsoft 365. With a background in medical research and data analytics, Jessie is a pioneer in AI and well-versed in the field. We're thrilled to have Jessie with us today to share this with us. And please join me in welcoming Jessie. Over to you, Jess.
Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Chris, for that introduction. For those of you whom I know, good to see you. And for those of you that I haven't met, lovely to meet you. As Chris mentioned, I'll be leading you through today. I'm just going to pop over to some slides. Give me a moment, that should come up. And by way of background, I am a proud geek, and I've got to admit this, not only just AI, but with Copilot for Microsoft 365 has me geeking out in a way that I haven't done so, falling in love with technology. The last time I remember being this excited was when I discovered the internet. So it's been a long time between drinks. And I see that this has some great potential, not just within our own business where we're loving it, but we think that when it comes to AI and that question of, well, how do we roll it out safely and securely, and how can we get maximum impact and return on investment, that this offers, there's a lot to like. Pardon me. Since ChatGPT became a thing, so to speak, only November 22, in that short time, it's become a buzzword, and it's come at quite an interesting time where businesses are looking to do more with less. It can be difficult to find staff, and how do productivity is stagnated, so how do we raise productivity? But on the flip side of that, cybercrime is an ongoing concern, and the price of that continues to go up. Just some stats to remind you. Last financial year, the average cost was $46,000 for a small business and $97,000 for a medium business. One cybercrime being reported every 7 minutes, and keep in mind that not every cybercrime is reported, and 30%, and Queensland accounted for 30% of those reports, more than any other state or territory. We're seeing the rise of cybercrime as a service. So all of you who are using Microsoft 365, that's software as a service. You pay an annual or monthly subscription, and you gain access to that software. In the same way, we're now seeing ransomware as a service, and it's really lowered the bar to entry because you no longer need those big technical skills to be able to run a ransomware attack. you can effectively outsource it and pay that annual or monthly subscription and gain access to all of those tools. And the other quite concerning thing that we've seen last year is that MFA, multi-factor authentication, also known as two-step verification, we're really big fans of that and continue to be. But what we have seen is that cyber criminals have found a way to bypass that, to get around that. And those type of attacks are up 600% last year. On the flip side of that, the AI opportunity. There's currently over 12,000 apps on the market. So what do you pick? And also that conjecture about how it will change the way we work. The total, the prediction is that it could contribute 115 billion annually to Australia's economy by the end of the decade. So there's a big opportunity there. And for us, looking at, well, how do we use AI not only in our business, but how can we help clients? We were looking for something that was secure. We were looking for something that had we could see good return on investment. We were wanting something with widespread appeal across multiple industries, across the site, whether you're a not-for-profit or you're in financial services or in construction, whether you're a small business or a medium business, that would be useful across the board. And we want something that would have multiple uses. So rather than having to buy this piece of software and another for one function and a second piece of software for another function and the third piece of software for another function, it adds up quickly, and you can get a software bloat. So you're paying more per month, lots per month. Your attack surface from your cybersecurity risk goes up. And so we were looking at how we could minimise those effects, which brings us to Copilot for 365. Now, when you hear Copilot and then hear people talking about Copilot, your first question should be, well, which one? Because Microsoft has rolled out multiple Copilot products, and in an attempt to keep everything on brand, they're all called Copilot. So there's Windows Copilot, there's Bing Chat has been renamed to Microsoft Copilot, there's Copilot Pro, Copilot Security for Copilot, Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. And so if you're thinking, well, I've already got Copilot, chances are that you've probably got access to having Microsoft 365 Business Premium licenses. You would have the Bing Chat Enterprise, which is now called Microsoft Copilot, and some of you may also have Copilot in Windows. So what's the difference between these products? They all have a similar interface, and they have access to, it's slightly limited in Windows, but you have access to Bing Chat. And what Bing Chat is, Microsoft own 49% of OpenAI, which means they have access to the different various ChatGPT models. And so they've incorporated Bing, the search engine, with GPT-4. And so that you have available, particularly Bing Chat Enterprise that you have access to, and you also have access to this in 365 Copilot. In Bing Chat Enterprise, and it gets expanded in Copilot for Microsoft 365, there's commercial data protection, including the Microsoft copyright commitment, where if someone sues you for copyright infringement, then Microsoft will come to the party and help defend that. So what does Copilot for 365 have beyond Bing Chat? There are a stack of security, privacy, and compliance features to help you keep your data secure. And part of the reason for this is you have your data, whether it's your emails in Outlook, your files in SharePoint and OneDrive, and they don't leave your Microsoft environment. You've got that tenant set up, the security that you have around that, the data doesn't leave that tenant. So by knuckling down and getting the security right on Microsoft 365, you're securing what the work that you do with Copilot. It has access to Microsoft 365 chat, which is similar to Bing chat, but you can ask it questions around the data contained within your system. When was my last fire drill? Fill me in on the emails from the past week. These kind of situations you can specifically ask, and I'll show you a couple of things around this later. And then finally, you have the integration of ChatGPT into your apps, Outlook, Teams, Word, Excel, and so forth. And we can talk about that. We'll talk about that in a little more detail shortly. So to give you a bit more detail on what this particular license is, it's a standalone license. It's additional to your Microsoft 365 Business Premium licenses that you already have. It's paid annually. It's approximately $50 per user per month. And the way that it works is it will go through and read all of your email and all of the files that you have access to. It builds what it calls a semantic index. It's effectively, this is the knowledge base of Jessie. This is how Jessie writes. These are the files that she has access to, and so forth. And by knowing me, so to speak, it can give me contextualized results. It's separate to Bing Chat, I've mentioned. And again, the data doesn't leave your Microsoft environment. So that's a big tick from that security perspective. We chose this product because even with one single license, we started initially for the first couple of weeks, it was just me that had it. And that boosted my productivity, and then we've since bought more licenses. At $50 per month, when you think about your time and your employees' time, you think about, regardless of, even if they're not earning $50 an hour, by the time you throw in their annual leave, their sick leave, and so forth, if you get 1 hour of productivity back per month, then you've gained back the cost of the license. Because it integrates with the apps, the existing apps that you're already using, it's not such a steep learning curve, which makes it easier, makes for easier adoption. And it's sort of dovetailing, I'll talk more in terms of security, but you get the double benefits. You're boosting your security as well as increasing productivity. Now, this product has been available since July last year and initially it was only available for enterprise, so 300 users plus. And what they did with this early access program, they gave access to a number of companies around the world and said, go forth and try it out without any real, this is how you use it, any suggestions, explore and see how it works. And these are the results from that first 6-month trial. 70% of users became more productive, 64% less time managing email. And that's a big one because it can draft emails that sound like me. And also the fact that I can ask about, what's the latest, or summarize this email trail, or what emails do I need to prioritize? I can ask those kind of questions, and it helps me be more focused. 70%, 71% less time on boring and mundane tasks. And I think this probably speaks to part of the reason why I'm falling in love with technology again, is that it's removing a lot of the admin for us personally. We spend more time on less time on admin, less time searching for files, as did 75% of users, and that's freeing us up to do more meaningful activities. The big one, users saved on average 10 hours per month. So even just with that, go forth and try it natively, see what's working. They were able to save 10 hours per month. Now, humble brag here, I'm saving up to 6 hours per week. So you can see it's not quite giving me a day back per week, but there's a lot to love. And personally, what's it doing for me? The emails that sound like me. Sometimes I can draft, if I need to draft an email and I've explained something to someone and they haven't, they come back and ask for clarification that I haven't written it in a way that they understand. I can ask it to rewrite it. If I've got an email that I need to take the emotion out of, if someone's frustrated or that I just want to, I just need to remain professional, then it can help me. It can either write a draft email, or it can rewrite what I've already written. That's a big help. Summarising Teams calls and webinars. This is being recorded. At the end, we'll get a transcript. We can ask what the meeting sentiment was if we've had an actual meeting. If you've got multiple people in the room and saying, Christy, this is your job. Ross, this is your job. David, this is your job. It will create the to-do list at the end of the meeting. And then everyone's on the same page in terms of what needs to, in terms of what their role is as a result of that meeting. Data analysis and trend identification in Excel. Excel is probably a little bit more clunky than some of the other apps, but even in the 3 months that we've had access to it, we've seen a big improvement. And we're at a point where this is as bad as it's ever going to be. It does get a little bit clunky at times, or occasionally says, sorry, I can't do that, or I don't know how to do that. But I've been amazed just within the past 3 months how much it's improved, and will continue to do so. Ideas generation. Create an idea, whether you're looking for social media or how do I do something or what are my options. It's great for coming up with ideas. And content creation, whether that's from a marketing perspective, whether that's a template, a process document. I didn't realise just how much I procrastinated until I no longer had to procrastinate. Because if I'm looking at a blank page, I can say, create me a draft on something, and it might only get me 50% of the way there. If I'm lucky, it might get me 80% of the way there, but it gives me something to start with so that I don't have to keep looking at that blank screen. And then there's the that chat feature, the 365 chat feature, and to being able to ask questions about contracts and other things within stored within SharePoint, OneDrive and Outlook. We've recently just updated our business continuity plan and our incident response plan, and being able to, rather than having to dig through and find our insurance documents and so forth, to be able to ask questions, and it will go through and reference documents that I can then pull up if I need further detail or to confirm those details. So far, it's all sounding pretty rosy in terms of what it can do, but I need to provide a balanced view here, and so let's talk about potential for harm. So the two main sources of threats, there's the external threats and the internal threats. The external threats are those that we typically think about, you know, the cyber criminal, and whether we're thinking about someone with the hoodie and the Guy Fawkes mask or whatever it is that you think about. The fact is that because I can now do so much more with my Microsoft account, it means that if my account gets compromised, then there's a cyber criminal who can write emails that sound like me, who can ask questions about whatever files I have access to, whether they be financial records or HR data. So the potential for harm is significant and needs to be treated accordingly. Oh, sorry. The second is internal threats. And this can be malicious or unintentional. And I just want to flag, we have to trust employees to a certain degree, otherwise we'd be paying them to twiddle their thumbs. But because we give access to them, the potential for harm, if they decide to go rogue, can be substantial, and an insider threat on average costs more than any other type of incident. And in terms of Copilot for Microsoft 365, the big risk that we're seeing is that companies don't lock down their data as they need to. And so particularly the HR files, the financial files and so forth, people, because Copilot will search through everything that employee or that user has access to, you might be giving them access to more than you realise. And the best example that I can give you of this is something that's come out from Microsoft in the past couple of weeks, is a construction company down in Sydney that hadn't locked down their HR files properly. And so there were employees who had access where they shouldn't have. And there was one grub, and I'm calling him what he is, asked Copilot to generate him a list of every female in the company under the age of 35 and their contact details. And it did. It went through, it found the HR files, identified all the females, filtered out the over 35s, and then gave them and then found the corresponding contact details, which is exactly what Copilot is supposed to do. It was the fact that the big issue there was that the HR was accessible to everyone. And the reason that the grub got caught was he then tried to email that list of female employees out to his mates. And thankfully, the company had something called data loss prevention policies in place. And these policies were able to detect that someone was trying to send sensitive information that was leaving the company environment. And that's how it got picked up. So there are some significant downsides here if you don't go through that process of getting ready for Copilot. So that's a really good time to dovetail then into what it means in what you need to be doing to protect your environment, given that using Copilot means that the risk of harm goes up. The first is Microsoft Secure Score of greater than 80%, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. The second is we've recently introduced risky user alerts, and we can do this through another piece of Microsoft AI. And these risky user alerts are similar to the bank fraud alerts. So because Microsoft logs when users access their data. So Michael might access it from Brisbane, generally between the time between 7:30 in the morning and 5:30 in the afternoon, and then occasionally he might check at 9 o'clock at night. He goes to Sydney and Melbourne regularly, or even a beach in the Bahamas once a month. Good luck, good on you. But it learns what that individual pattern looks like. And if someone's connecting in from Michael's suddenly connecting in from the Philippines at 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, hang on a moment, that doesn't look right. That's not him. And so then we can flag that. We believe this is important because if your account gets compromised, the earlier we can identify that, the sooner we can get in and minimize the damage. Next up, we have the concept of just enough access. And this is ensuring that your employees and even staff have enough access to be able to do their job properly and nothing more. In no company does or very rarely would it be that everyone needs access to all the HR files or all the financial files, or depending on, if you've got field staff, then the field staff may not, are unlikely to need access to some of the office staff files. So you can have, if you've got a team with particular roles or functions, they might have access to certain files that the on-site crew don't have access to, and vice versa. On-site might have access to files that the office staff don't need. And we can do a scan to help you identify what that sensitive information is, to help you lock it down. But we also, it's a process that needs input from you, because you know your business better than anyone, and you can provide that context in terms of, oh, well, yes, this person does need access. No, they don't. Or we can't do this alone. Then you've got the DLP policies, which I mentioned earlier. That's what saved, that's what helped the company identify that breach was happening. And there's a few different ways to set up those policies, but it's effectively there to help you identify and block when there are sensitive information trying to leave your Microsoft environment. It might, and depending on your circumstance, we can customize that in terms of whether it gets blocked or whether it gets flagged, or how exactly it works. Then there's the data cleansing and archiving. And there's a saying in data science, garbage in, garbage out. If you've got files that you don't want Copilot to access, whether you've changed the way that you do business, whether you've been in business a really long time and you've got 10 years plus worth of files in 365, if you look at a business that's 10 years old, I'm sure that they've changed certain things over that time, and so there might be the need to archive or block access to some of those files. And then finally, there's the cybersecurity awareness training. The biggest risk in any system is the user, and that includes us as the owners, as the managers, as those people being in sort of privileged positions, we specifically get targeted, you know, through spear phishing. And those phishing campaigns, one of the big things that we're seeing is they're getting harder to detect, that the cyber criminals are using AI to improve the quality of those. Very rarely do we see any Nigerian princes anymore. That they're getting much smarter, and it can be harder to detect. And the way that I look at it is that anyone can have a bad day, whether you're busy or you're, you know, you've been working towards a deadline, you're tired, you've got sick kids at home, whatever it may be, you can accidentally click on a link and fall for something. And so the idea of having training and regular phishing tests to help you develop that skill can help you, so that when you're having a bad day, it might just be that trigger. Oh, well, hang on a moment. Because from a technical perspective, if someone clicks on that phishing link and goes and hands over the password and the MFA code, that's enough to begin an MFA bypass attack. And that's very difficult from a technical perspective to protect people and companies from. And so this is really where we need your help, in terms of being able to boost that skill of being able to protect themselves. And then that's a good thing, because not only are you protecting your own business, you're helping your employees protect themselves. And if that means that they don't fall for a scam at home, then you've just saved them a lot of heartache and quite frankly, quite possibly a lot of productivity if they're worried about that they've lost 20 grand in some kind of fraudulent transaction as a result of that. So that's some of the things that we need to put in place. And you know, we're happy to talk about what the next steps look like. I just want to flag the Microsoft Secure Score. This is something that we manage for managed service clients, and we're bringing in a specific management. I think we've probably spoken to most of you by now. Managing that Microsoft security is becoming a big piece, and we're bringing that in as a standalone product. But Chris will be, if he hasn't spoke to you, we'll talk to you about that one later. But I just wanted to flag it. We manage it. It's a dynamic score between 0 and 100% by Microsoft in terms of how secure your environment is. And it gives you that something tangible, a benchmark. You can compare it against your industry, against other businesses of your size. It talks about, gives you advice in terms of how you can improve your overall security. Sometimes you've got to accept a risk. Sometimes you've got to make an exception. It really needs to be customised to your business. And best practice is above 80%, and we stand by that. And to put it into perspective, last year the average secure score across Australia was 31%. So that's something that you know, we're really taking the security piece seriously, and that's, you know, one of the big takeaways today. Copilot for Microsoft 365 is fantastic, but if you want to do it with us, then we're going to do it properly. So at this point, I'm going to jump in and demo some of the features for you. So just stop. I'm going to give me a moment. I'm just going to have to switch between a few different applications here. So in the first instance, sorry. All right. Let's move this. So you've got the Copilot. This is the web version, the web chat that you currently have access to, bing.com/chat. This is what it looks like for, this is the 365 chat. So you can, things like track my tasks, what should be on my radar from emails last week is great. Is there something from last week that I've forgotten? Yesterday I was asking how when our last fire drill was, and it's gone through and searched that, help me write or get calendar information, what's the latest from the person. But the Microsoft demo environment is actually down at the moment, so I won't go into this because this is actually our personal environment, and I don't want to, you know, I'm sure you can appreciate that we want to protect that data. So this is the web version, and I'm just going to give you an example of what it can do, and you can contextualize it to your industry. We've got, you know, quite a lot of professional services and trades and construction and not-for-profit here today. So I'm going to try and spread the various scenarios across that. But you know, you can. I'm also you can, and I'm happy to talk about it more personalised later. But think about how this might apply to your business. So if you haven't seen Bing Chat, it's worth a shot, because I'll start with one. Compare the top 3 CRMs in the construction industry. Include what integrations they offer. And so this has gone out to the web and identified Zoho, HubSpot, and Fresh Sales. And then it's talking, it's saying where it's got the information from. And then put this information and we've put it into a table, which has summarized it, which and then you can go from there. Whether no matter what you're trying to compare, you can say, you know, put it strengths, include another column for the cons, because it's identified the cons initially. So some of the cons, it just hasn't put them in. So this is something that you can use whether you're no matter what you're trying to compare, if you've whether it's new products or you're trying to compare client contracts or anything like that. If it's personalized, you would use the work, but if otherwise, you can use the web. So that's the first scenario. The next one is in Excel. And so here we've got some mock data for for some marketing campaigns. And so you can see here it's in preview. This is the one that's been rolled out most recently. And it gives you some suggestions. You can create formula columns, edit, sort and filter, highlight, understand. You can ask it for some data insights without having said what kind of insights you're looking for. You're not entirely sure. If you want a specific kind of insight, then you need to ask for it. In this case, it's given revenue by launch date. Here's the sum on various days. But let's do something. Let's do a bit more if we want to drill down with this. Add a column that calculates profit. And if we give it a minute. So it's looked at revenue minus budget and it's created a profit column. I also want to create a column called percent engaged users. And so you can see there's a column here that says total users targeted and engaged users, and it's going through and generating those out. So those column. Which, okay, you could, let's from this point create a table comparing average profit by campaign owner. Now, the interesting thing here is that we've got the campaign owner here in column A, and we've got profit. Sorry, we've got the profit column here, but we don't have anything on average. So what it's gone, it says I've created a pivot table that compares the average profit by campaign owner. Here's the table. We can add it to a new sheet, and there we go. So rather than having to go through and create that yourself, if you know what it is that you want to compare, similarly, you can create a graph comparing profit to percent engaged users. If you're wondering if there's some kind of, if you're looking for a trend or you're trying to work to do that. And here we go. It's created a scatter chart that compares the two. And again, we can add it to the sheet. And it's created that for you. Next up in Word, here we have a blank document. I'm staring at a blank document. I want to create a training on how to use Copilot for Microsoft 365.
Sorry, Jess, just going to share that Word, please.
Thank you. So it's a blank Word document. I've got the option of pulling up Copilot on the side here if I want. Or I can also use it within, so if I want to ask a question, or just by clicking on the icon, describe what you'd like to write. So in this case, create an outline for a training on how to use Copilot for Microsoft 365. You'll notice in here I can reference a file. So if I've got some client notes on which bits, some client notes, they want to know how to use Copilot within PowerPoint, or they've got a particular need, they want to be able to use it for something or other. Or I've done a similar training in the past, and I want to give it some reference material to help make it more specific, then I have that option there too. But here, it's just generating. That option to provide a reference file is also available in PowerPoint. So once I've got this training guide in a Word document and I'm happy with it, I can then go into PowerPoint and create a slide presentation from a Word document. So I can take this, if I'm happy with it, I can save it, and take it into PowerPoint, and it will generate a draft presentation for me. So here we go. Here's the training guide. I can make it more formal. If I'm not happy, if I like it, I can hit keep it. If I'm not happy, it's going to try again with a new draft. If you are going to generate a new draft, I would suggest that you give it some features on how, give it some feedback, make it more formal, more bullet points, less formal, shorter. This is, break it down further. Whatever it is, the more information you can give it, the more tailored, the better the output's going to be. So remember, sort of that garbage in, garbage out. The more specific you can be in terms of what you're asking for. So even from the perspective of saying create that training, create it for a financial planning firm that does that specializes in X, or again, that as much, the more context you can give it, the better that's going to be. And then finally, just give me one moment. Share. So here you go. So here's my view. Okay. So you can see the team. You can see teams there. I've got the Copilot option here. It's offering to generate notes, check the facts. So I can ask anything about this. If I'm not sure what to ask, it can give me some more prompts. Listing the action items, generating meeting notes. If we recap the meeting so far, which if some is great, if I'm late to a meeting, or I've missed a meeting and I've got access to the recording, I can come in. Here we go, and it's gone through and given the introduction, the overview. It's gone through and it's summarized that. List action items is great, where it's a meeting and different things are going to be delegated. And then there's even the features in there for AI coaching in terms of how well did you run the meeting. So let me stop sharing that. And there is one last one to share, which give me one moment to find it. Okay, so let me just share that. Okay. So what you can see here, prompts to try. This is the Copilot prompt library. And from Microsoft, in terms of some of the prompts that they recommend that you try, we've been building out different ones ourselves in terms of when it works. But here's, if you're thinking, will it do something? What's new from someone? Name a product, generate ideas, creating that presentation from file, understanding this document in 3 sentences. One of the things that we find it does well is when you've got if we get a complex technical document from Microsoft and we need to distill that down and get the information out to clients, drafting emails, agendas, comparing columns, agendas, more draft plans, summarizing documents. You can create a mission statement, identify issues, pros and cons, business proposals, adding slides, replying to emails, creating interview questions, on which items have the most, generating ideas. So you can see here really the limits at this point are that question of what can I use it for? And from that perspective, it can be really useful to go, you know, where do you spend a lot of time in your day? And, you know, or even if you're spending a lot of time in Outlook, well, then maybe you're looking at how you can craft emails and understand emails. Or perhaps you've got some job that you just hate, that is boring and monotonous, and you go, well, can we get some low-hanging fruit? Yeah, there's a lot of different ways, and that's in some way can be, some people will get it and run with it and go, yes, I've tried X and Y and Z, and others can go, oh, hang on a moment, when should I use it? And sometimes there is that little bit of a challenge, which is where, you know, having these prompt ideas can be really useful, you know, in terms of going to that, so I'll just flip back to live demo. Okay. So what hopefully from what you can see from today, Chris has just put the prompt library up in the chat. Thank you for that, Chris. Copilot for 365, Microsoft 365 can increase productivity, has a lot of potential. And we're rolling it out with a view that we're going to increase productivity and security, so you get that double benefit. I think that eventually this and products like it can help in workplace culture and engagement, because if you're prepared to invest in your staff and help them to be happier at work, but, you know, reduce the admin load, reducing those monotonous tasks, then that becomes a competitive advantage for recruiting and retaining staff. But if you're just after the licenses only, if you're not prepared to invest in that security, then we can't in good conscience sell you those licenses as a standalone product, because we I can't do it in good faith, knowing that you're putting your company at risk. So here are my contact details. Happy to take questions now, but if you would like to know more, if you want to chat about it further, then happy to book in some time and see whether that's the right fit for you, if that's something that you want to look at, what the next steps look like for you, and how Copilot for Microsoft 365 can work in your business. Thank you. So with that, we got questions. Chris, any in the chat?
Yes, we've got one from Ross, who's asking us, what app would you do you use Copilot the most with? Is it Teams, Copilot, Teams, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, etc., and why?
I use it a lot in Word, because in my role, I do a fair amount of business development, and so creating documents, whether that's a 10 tips to better cybersecurity, or document templates and processes, that sort of is more into the operation. So a lot in Word, a lot in Outlook, and we don't have as many Teams meetings as some, but it is particularly useful in Teams meetings. Really enjoy that.
Any other questions from the floor? Might have a few there waiting to ask questions. You're welcome to take yourself off mute and ask it verbally if you'd prefer, or if you want to put it back in the chat, that's okay too.
So one come through in chat. I'd love to chat about this further. Okay, no worries, Christy. We'll be in touch.
Certainly, we're happy to provide demos to especially to our ongoing proactive management clients on how we use it in a bit more detail. Unfortunately, there are no trials of Copilot, which is a question we often get asked. It takes about 2 to 4 weeks for the semantic index to be built. So sometimes it's, you do have to wait for that fruit to bear from Copilot. So unfortunately, a trial doesn't exist because it does take that time. But certainly, if you're looking at investing in 1 or 2 licenses for an organization, it's always a good idea to start small, I guess, and then see how it grows from there. So we're nearly at the top of the hour. If there's no further questions, then we might close this webinar today. We're really grateful to have Jess here today. Thank you for doing that, Jess, and all the clients that did participate and came along. We're really grateful for your input and also your support. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always happy to help. It's certainly a new product for us to offer, but also in the industry, it's going to be one of those game changers we see will help to benefit. Mm-hmm. And if you think of anything ways we can improve this webinar or future webinars, which we'll look at running, we'd love to hear from you there. So I hope that you have a great rest of the day ahead. And on behalf of Jess, I, and Alberto, we hope you have a great day and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Very welcome, Ray. We'll talk soon. Did you have a question, David?
Try, he might be caught on a call or something like that. David, if you are there and you want to ask anything, feel free to, or you can always drop us a line too.